You could say she's like a prairie fire. You could say she's like a... Oh, you could say she's like a prairie fire. A soaring spirit riding on the flames of her desire. If you feel her burning in your soul tonight, prairie fire is the name you'll know her by. Look how you light the midnight sky. Prairie fire, tell us why.
Welcome to a new season of Prairie Fire. I'm your host, Sarah Edwards. Now, it's not often we get visits from high-profile Hollywood writers and actors here on this show, but this episode is going to be an exception. Bob and Bill Odenkirk grew up in the Chicago suburbs, and they've built careers as top Hollywood comedy writers. Two-time Emmy winner Bob Odenkirk launched his career writing for Second City in Chicago, and then Saturday Night Live and Late Night with Conan O'Brien. He started acting in The Ben Stiller Show and had a recurring role in The Larry Sanders Show. Odenkirk created and starred in the HBO sketch comedy series Mr. Show with Bob and David from 1995 to 1998. He's best known these days for his role playing the shady lawyer Saul Goodman on the AMC series Breaking Bad and the spin-off Better Call Saul. In 2025, he released the action film Nobody 2, which follows the success of the first Nobody film. Bob's younger brother Bill Odenkirk had a much different route to comedy's top writer ranks. Bill Odenkirk was drawn to science after high school, earning a PhD in inorganic chemistry before he began pursuing comedy writing. He joined his brother Bob as a writer for Mr. Show and then went on to write episodes of Tenacious D, Futurama, and mini episodes of The Simpsons. More recently, he's written episodes of the Netflix animated series Disenchantment. Bill and Bob Odenkirk, welcome to Prairie Fire.
Hi.
Thank
Good
you.
to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. You guys grew up in Naperville, Illinois, and from what I've read, you were kind of raised by a really dynamic mother and a father who was kind of not so dynamic. And you know, I found a...
What's the opposite of dynamic?
I guess you wrote a bit of your mother's obituary. It says, as great and committed as Barbara was as a mother, Walter was her polar opposite and never seemed fully committed to the enterprise of having and raising a passel of antecedents. So how do you think that difference between your mom and dad kind of helped you all kind of become, especially in the comedy
like
department?
Most guys, when you grow up, you try to be the opposite of your dad. So that meant we worked really hard.
And we had fewer children.
And we had fewer children.
So.
And you know, I think we to be sort of like honest in a way that's very personal. We're both sort of deeply responsible people, and so are many of our brothers and sisters. It's almost like that's actually a challenge, right? Is like I don't know about if you think the same thing.
I think I think it taught us a negative positive lesson to sort of be present for your family and responsible.
But you can overdo that too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And of course we will, and then our kids will do the opposite.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
the wonderful cycle
yes.
of life carries on.
It's kind of, you know, and you also kind of allude to, you know, the great things about growing up. It was a lovely...
We had a great time, and we had a lot of tension. In the background was tension and uncertainty, and then in the foreground was laughter and goofing around and energy and
my mom
structure.
had. Well, we should say there were 7 children in the family, so my mom. It was like growing up in the army. You kind of like had to obey orders, and then you're kind of forgotten about. So we had a lot of freedom. Just spent days doing whatever we wanted. Naperville was a pretty safe town, and so we could just be on our own a great deal.
Now, are you guys the only ones who went the Hollywood direction, and everybody else is responsible and has 401k? You know, that whole
right.
Yeah, Bob was the one who was really interested in entertainment industry in general.
Yeah.
But no, Bob was into improv and all that stuff from an early age, and I kind of, we were very close and still are. I was into science and I pursued a chemistry degree.
Yeah, could you unpack that a bit, because there's a huge difference between getting your BA in chemistry and then getting your master's PhD, discovering a new molecule,
Yeah, no,
and then going to comedy.
Yeah,
What's up with that?
What's up with that?
What is up
While
with that?
while I was in graduate school, or before I hit graduate school, Bob had gone to Saturday Night Live, and which was really exciting for him and for me too, because it was the first time I went to New York was to see him at Saturday Night Live and hang out. And so Bob included me in a lot of his writing and what he was doing at the time, and so I got a taste of writing and meeting a lot of great writers: Conan O'Brien, Robert Smigel. These are big names. Obviously Conan everyone knows, but it was a safe way for me to kind of leave science and go into writing and comedy, which I really loved, and I'm really grateful for what Bob did.
Look,
to
Bill
me.
helped
Yeah.
me a lot too, because so when Robert Smigel, a famous Saturday Night Live writer and a famous comedy writer of our time, one of the greats, he would rely on me. We had been roommates in Chicago, and I would help him. When I went to Saturday Night Live, I'm relying on Bill as a voice outside of the show, who has time and interest to sit around and hear my bullshit, and also pitch me his bullshit.
Yeah, so it was a gradual process, as crazy as it sounds. But still, when I got out to Hollywood and was working at The Simpsons, and Futurama was another show I'm still writing for, a lot of those people had advanced science degrees or law degrees from like Harvard and Yale.
Yeah, The Simpsons, and in particular The Simpsons and Futurama, are two shows that I would be curious someone to find out the advanced degrees at those two shows. How many people at those two shows have doctorates?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people with law degrees, as I said, too. A lot of people.
Law makes more sense, though, because it's about logic and it's about language. And so I get that connection to comedy.
Yeah.
A lawyer almost, is paid to think around a problem or to turn something inside out.
Yeah.
And that's what you do as a comedian,
Yeah.
right? So that
Right.
makes sense. Chemistry, not so much, and the others, not so much, but they exist. It's real.
What do you think, and this is a question that's been on my mind since I moved back here 7 years ago, what do you think of good, solid Midwest upbringing? What is it about this area, this state, the people that you meet that you've taken with you that adds to your success today? I know it's a weird kind of expansive question, but
Midwestern. A lot of comedy comes out of Chicago, right? I mean, look at all the great Saturday Night Live performers and stand-ups too, who came from Chicago.
I think you have a humility. When you live in the Midwest, you feel, obviously Second City is the name for a theater, and it's a name that was borrowed from a name for Chicago, the Second City. You're the underdog. And as a result, you have a suspicious chip on your shoulder towards all the whatever's happening, whatever's hype and happening, and that's good for comedy, because that's what comedy does. Comedy undermines. Growing up here lends itself to that look at that perspective on the world that wants to poke at the world and doesn't take things seriously.
To turn that around, why do you guys, it might be a good time to step back and, why do you continue to do comedy?
To bother people with our comedy?
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
why do you continue to poke and nudge?
You could be discovering another molecule or,
Right.
retiring in the...
Because it's fun, you laugh.
It is fun, and I think, look, I mean, I don't write particularly political material, but I think that you're anything you're writing is examining something important or maybe even mundane in life that you have a question about or bothers you, usually just irritates you, and so
as long as there are irritating things in the world, there's comedy.
Yeah.
So please
we'll
keep
have jobs.
irritating us. Nobody quits show business. You can't.
Show business quits people, though.
Yeah,
Yes.
but show business quits
Unfortunately,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. May I ask next projects, what you're working on, what's coming up?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
I had a movie just 3 days ago play at TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, a real fun movie, a comedy action film called Normal. So that's done. That'll hopefully come out next year. And then I have a documentary. I climbed Machu Picchu with my old comedy partner, David Cross. And it's a documentary about friendship, really, with a lot of comedy thrown in and a little bit of history and a lot of huffing and puffing. And so that hopefully will play somewhere. It'll be available next year. We're cutting it together now. I'm working on a show that my son wrote. He's a funny writer, and I'm going to develop a few more films. I'm going to take a break because I've sort of worked straight for about a year and a half, 2 years. I did a Broadway show. I did 2 movies. I did the documentary and other things. So I'm going to just take a break and do that thing where you ask yourself, what do I want to put out there now? And I do know I'm going to try a couple more action films because, strangely enough, it has just been very fun. It's really fun to pretend to beat up a lot of people.
Yeah, it looks pretty painful. I watched Nobody and ouch.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's really fun to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you ever get actually hit?
Oh, I wanted to ask
no,
that as well.
No.
Sorry, I'm jumping out of you.
No.
The truth is, the stunt guys that are around you are incredible pros, and their job is, number one, to make sure you're safe. That's their number one job, and then number 2 is to make you look good. And so
They should work harder.
they
I got it.
but I'll tell you, they wouldn't do it. But I would almost hit them sometimes because I'm a little less skilled than them. But they even catch that. They're just sort of very alert.
Yeah.
And
It's their job.
They must get
The only way
bruised.
you get hurt, you get bruised a little bit. Oftentimes you hit your hands on things because when you go to the actual set, it's very often dimension-wise not quite exactly what you trained in. When you train with, they set up cardboard boxes where the walls will be, and but then when you're at a real place, there's like pipes and stuff that wasn't there, and so my experience, now I've made 3 action films, is that when I get hurt, I usually hit my hands on something that wasn't really a part of the dimensions that we practiced in. It's no big deal.
So my project.
Yes.
Yes, right. I'm working on. I just finished the latest season of Futurama, which I'm writing from here, from Champaign, with other writers. But that's the blessing of Zoom has been that, as a writer, you can live pretty much anywhere. We have a couple of writers for Futurama live in L.A. One lives in upstate Washington. One lives in North Carolina and Nova Scotia. And we all meet on Zoom. So it's been fantastic.
We wrote a project together about a year and a half ago.
With David Cross.
Really a great project that did not make it all the way to the screen because all the reasons that things get killed, but it's a really good one. But that sadly was purchased and then killed. But we'll do more together.
Yeah.
Well, Bill's got the right idea. You can write from home. No wildfires.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Wait a second.
No LA?
This is called Prairie Fire.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Right.
Touche.
I can't believe you
Bob Odenkirk.
do a show that is celebrating the worst thing that can happen in the Midwest.
Prairie
To
Fire,
remind you of the very worst thing that could happen.
for your information, it is about the fire that we Midwesterners had, the
metaphorical.
creative fire.
okay.
Well,
that
could you
burns.
call it the metaphorical Prairie Fire so that we know that?
That's just awkward.
You think that's too long?
Bob and Bill Odenkirk, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
It was so much fun having them here. But now I want to switch from comedy to culinary. A few months ago, I was having my hair done at the salon by my stylist Maggie, and she mentioned that she had just been out for the best meal of her entire life, and the restaurant was in the tiny town of Lexington, Illinois. And I said, well, that sounds like a really great story. We hope you think so too.
So how did I end up in Lexington? Well, I remember being on a bike ride and riding through here, And I was just like, it's such a cute little town. The building used to be a train depot, and the place was quiet and dark, and I was just like, So I just kind of went up to the porch and just put my face up into the window, and I was just like, oh, that's really beautiful. So we come back out, and they open the door, and as soon as they opened the door, and I rolled in here, there was just a smell. It smelled of old wood. I was just like, this is the place. This is the place. I was born and raised in Bloomington Normal, so I've lived in Central Illinois my whole life. A lot of hanging out in the kitchen, watching mom, dad also kind of being a single father, both single parents. My brother and I were always really, really close. Steve was 2 years older than I was, and so I was kind of the pain in the butt, tag along. School never really was my cup of tea. I wanted to have too much fun. My brother played guitar and then was in a reggae African band here in Bloomington that he kind of got together with some buddies. And then I was like, well, I want to do that, so I learned how to play bass guitar, and both Steve and I are people who like working with our hands, and my brother and I, we painted. Painting wasn't necessarily something I really wanted to do, but no matter what I do, I really want to do it well. I know I had always had an entrepreneurial spirit that, I got from my mom. And I knew I always wanted to do like a cafe or food or something like that, in a way. So 2008, I was like, I had enough money in the bank, and then I taught myself kind of how to cook in a way. A guy who worked for me when I was painting, he was from Mexico, and he took me to this little hidden taco kitchen. And it was really, really kind of like my aha moment, kind of like with food. And you walked in there, and it was like being privy into a part of a community that existed in Bloomington that you wouldn't get to be part of unless you knew somebody who knew somebody. Everybody coming in and sharing tacos, eating food. And I was like, I've got to do this. And so I kind of took that as a model. How do I start something? I wanted to have my own business. I'd been my own boss forever. I like being my own boss. And then there was a guy who I worked with, and he's like, hey, Jon, what are you doing, man? What do you want to do? What's your end goal? So I'm talking to him about this, and we're talking food trucks and something like this, and he's like, hey, I just want to show you something. So on the way back, we drive by this place, and he shows me this English double-decker bus that was parked in Bloomington. And I'm like, well, that's gonna be a food truck. This is where the kitchen's gonna be, and this is gonna be like, I knew exactly. I had already envisioned it all out. And we started a food truck, and we built out this English double-decker bus, and we had a kitchen on the bottom. We had seating up top for like 23 people. We brought something to Bloomington Normal that, at the time, only big cities saw. I started doing my own little underground restaurant out of my house. We did brunches, and we did little tasting menu, and it was like all word of mouth. We called it the Underground. It was a beautiful space, and like one long communal table, and then like my kitchen kind of butted right up to it. Our initial run of it, I remember we planned the menu, and we did this 7-course tasting menu out of this cookbook called Le Pigeon, which was a restaurant that we both idolized in Portland, Oregon. And it was just perfect. The music was right, the vibe was right, the food was right, and it was just I still see people who were there, and we still talk about it crystal clear of just like our most favorite food experience.
In a way, this is a scaled up version of the Underground. You can see that in the way we've kind of set up the dining room. It feels a little bit like somebody's living room. Tables are close together. It's not a large space.
Vision of the food was rooted in seasonality and using local produce through a European lens. Kind of the concept of haute low, right? You know, elevated stuff, but like in a casual way, which is not, you know, I don't want it to be stiff. I wanted great service and genuine hospitality and excellent food.
Jon is incredibly friendly, but he is demanding. He's got a high standard that he wants to see, and he wants every guest to see.
We'll have chicken and seafood, and then our starters are where we really kind of get to be a little bit more adventurous. We always do like a handmade pasta too. I love doing pasta. Things that I can get locally as much as I can outside of obviously the seafood.
For me, the place has kind of become what like restaurants should be, in that we are really looking for as local as possible when it comes to our purveyors and producers, and we just try and get as local as possible.
The seasons are really what's dictating what's going on and what's coming off of the farms. So we have our herbs in the garden in the back, you know, so like we're doing a corn tortelloni, which is so ridiculously good. The menu is built a little bit like definitely like, you know, our shareables. It's how I love to eat. We want you to try all of this different stuff because there's so much deliciousness on the menu, and especially if you have like a group of people, like to me, that's just a fun way to eat. People have been like, why am I gonna get oysters out in the middle of nowhere? And I'm like, well, because it's probably about 3 days out of the water only, which is almost as good as they're as good as you're getting on the coast. I'm working with purveyors that all of your top big city restaurants are working with. I don't know, you win people over with flavor, right? The challenge is getting people out here.
When I saw Jon was opening the restaurant out here, it seemed a little crazy because I had never really thought about the town before. I'd never really come out this way. So the first time I came out here, you know, we drove down Route 66, and it was just such a joy just getting here and finding the restaurant. The town itself is very, very kind of scenic, you know. It feels like a small town in Illinois. And the building itself being a train station from the 1800s is really kind of crazy. Where else are you gonna find that?
If we were in Bloomington, we would be packed all the time. So it's just getting people to, you know, visibility, getting people to come out here. There's still like a ton of people who don't know who we are. I love what I do. I love coming into a kitchen that I'm surrounded by windows. This building inspires me 100% to come in here and be in, it's magic.
Jon talks a lot about the sort of the Japanese philosophy of Kaizen, getting 1% better every day, and that is really what we do.
I have so much room for improvement still. I feel like I've only just scratched the surface of things. Yeah, that's what keeps me rolling.
And finally, we'd like now to introduce you to a woman who's making a real impact on the Champaign-Urbana music scene. Her name is Joy Yang, and she's created a unique music education program that stems from her love of piano and another really unusual instrument.
My name is Dr. Joy Yang, and I'm a performing artist, and I perform piano and theremin. My mom was a Mandarin teacher in China, and my dad was an engineer at a TV station, so neither of them were musicians. And they were just interested in classical music since I was a young kid and enrolled me in lessons. It was a turning point when I met my piano teacher, Nita Morn AM, at the age of 16. And she was really a teacher that instilled the love of the music into me. I already had a strong technical foundation, but she introduced me to the culture of music as well as the history, and allowed me to blossom into someone who would pursue music as my career down the line. I used to want to be a fashion designer when I was younger, then I wanted to be an actress, and it wasn't until I was 19 that I decided to focus more on music and education. So my undergraduate degree was at the University of New South Wales, And during my 4th year, I came to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign for study abroad for 1 semester. And that's when I fell in love with this community and this campus here. At the end of my study abroad semester, I went up to Chicago and I went to one of my friend's jazz performances. And the drummer had a mini theremin. It blew my mind. Like, I didn't think it was real. And I went back to Australia and I was auditioning for a course with Dr. Adam Hulbert. And I mentioned wanting to learn the theremin. And he was like, no way, I've got a theremin in my office. So I started borrowing Adam's theremin 2 to 3 times a week. And that's how I started learning theremin on my own. The theremin is a synthesizer. It's the only instrument that you can play without touching. So it uses electromagnetism. There's the upright rod, which is for pitch, and the horizontal one, which is for volume or dynamics. The closer I move towards the upright rod, the higher the sound becomes. And the closer I move to the horizontal rod, the softer it becomes. So it's a bit of coordination that's involved, and it's a lot of listening. I find this instrument to be very freeing because the piano has 88 keys and the pitch is pretty much set for each key. But the theremin is more similar to a voice or a violin because we can access the sounds that are between every note. I think having these 2 instruments side by side and merged together in my performance creates my own unique voice. Okay, share one thing that you're grateful for today or this week. Who wants to start? It's definitely not easy to pursue performing as a career. So I wanted to do both things at the same time. Having been in this community in Urbana-Champaign, I wanted to build something here in the community that would leave a lasting impact while I also pursue my performing career. I formed the Interdisciplinary Institute after I graduated to continue my research in the community. The Interdisciplinary Institute is a STEM plus arts hub. It's a creative hub for self-expression and exploration. So instead of just purely music lessons, for example, what we aim to do is to have a scientist, a musician, a dancer together to see how we can create a unique performance. We hold lessons, workshops, concerts, and events, both at our location and in the community. I really wanted to start this in Champaign-Urbana, and as it becomes more successful, possibly replicate this in other cities. With the help of the people in this community, we have such a rich range of community members, students, graduate students, professors that all come together, and we also aim to reach marginalized audiences. But I think that was really good. You pretty much have it memorized, right? Being a third culture kid, existing in liminal spaces, having moved around a lot and growing up in many different countries, one of the main challenges I've had personally is discovering my identity. That's been a consistent theme through my artistic creations and pursuits. And music has really helped me connect with myself deeper, as well as with my collaborators and the audience. I really believe that whatever we want to do, if we're really passionate about it, we're always going to find a way to make it happen. If we really have something valuable to offer, then there will always be a way to make it sustainable.
For more information about the Interdisciplinary Institute or any of our stories on Prairie Fire, visit will.illinois.edu/prairiefire. We leave you now with one last performance from Joy Yang.